super quiet. It was beautiful. It was serene. And we're walking along. The river's on our left. And then at some point, like, I don't know, a quarter of a mile or whatever, Tammy's like, whoa, look. And we look off to the left, like between the river and the asphalt of the trail. And there were these two little ducklings. And I'm pretty sure that one of them said to the other one, do you see that family coming with the little cream puff dog? Like, that's our mark. Give them all your cuteness. Because they did. They were so adorable. And we go kind of, Tammy, we're filming them kind of like from a distance. And then we get a little closer and a little closer. And they're not running away. Like, they're not afraid of us. And so finally, like, I'm like going to pet them. Tammy's like, no, don't pet them. Because, like, you know, they got to be able to, you know, we were thinking about the nest thing. Like, birds come, you know, you touch an egg in a nest. And anyway, so we're like, we don't know what to do. But we're like, where's their mama? There was no ducks anywhere. Like, and so we're like, well, let's wait till Mama comes back, and Mama never came back, and then so we're like, well, let's just walk a little ways and let's just let them kind of be, and we started to walk, and they started to follow us, and then like we try to every beach that we went to, you know how there's all the blackberry bushes. This is Hydro Park in East Bay. So there's all these blackberry bushes, and then there's like these little beach openings or these little openings. So we're walking, and the ducks are following us, and we're looking for like mama duck anywhere, and there's nothing, no ducks at all. And so finally, I think Tammy picks them up, because like so we can get faster to like maybe the big beach where there might be mama duck. And so we're carrying them, and then we get to this beach, and then we try to let them go. Here's a video of us trying to actually let them go. And they won't go. They just keep coming back, and so don't cry. And right there, Tammy was smitten. Here's the next video of them following us. Seriously. We tried to let them go, okay? Just remember that. But like, so we're thinking like they're not gonna make it, because they're gonna get eaten by something, like a leashless dog, like the two German shepherds that later showed up at the beach area, not on their leashes, or like the big something oodle that wasn't on its leash either, or like coyotes or eagles or hawks or crows, or maybe they're gonna die of hypothermia overnight. We don't know, but we're like, we gotta do something with them. So we asked the two maintenance guys in their little motor cart, like, do you guys take them? No, we don't take them. And I think one of them tried calling the Humane Society, but like they don't, I think he said they don't take him either, or he couldn't get through. And so we're like, well, let's just take him home. So we took him home. And of course, maybe we should have Googled this before we got home, but we Googled how do you take care of like ducklings, and like you have to build a brooding cage, and you got to have heat. They can't have less than 75 degrees to 80 degrees Fahrenheit until they're like weeks 5 and 6, and you got to have water, but the water can only be so shallow because they can drown, and since they're just fur, like they don't have feathers, so actually they get wet and they get cold, and so there's all these things. Then we had to figure out what kind of food we're going to give them. We had to set up the food in the brooding cage, and then the standing, you know, the room heater had to be in the bathroom with the cage, and the water had to get changed out all the time. And we're like, so we're like taking care of them, and then we would take them into the backyard. And here's a little video of letting them just run free and eat grass and dandelion leaves and play in the water. Isn't that cute? Yes. Adorable. So we didn't know like what to feed them. So I found a spot where there were some worms in my grass, and they followed me over to where I went, and I start digging, and then like I found them some worms, and they loved it. They loved hunting for worms. And so Tammy videotaped the second time. I'd already, cut up the grass, but I was looking again for some more worms, and here's a video of that. That was Snap, not something else. I said Snap, not something else. That was, I couldn't help but bond with them when we were hunting for worms. It was so cute. And then like after like the third time, like when we were sitting in the backyard with them, they would go over to dig for worms. Like, come on, let's go get food. And so like day one, they were so adorable. But by day 5, my life felt like deplorable. Like I wanted my life back. It's like, Tammy, you've got to find a home for these. And Christina, she knew someone in Malaga that has a farm. And so finally, like day 5, Tammy's like, okay, I'm going to give them away today. That was the day they like totally bonded with. Like, that's the day they could just sit on her chest and she could just pet them. And she started, so I'm like, we got to get rid of them sooner than later, or we're never going to get rid of them, and we're going to have to put in a pool or something. So she goes to Malaga, and she meets up with this woman, and the first thing this woman says is, those aren't ducks. Those are Canadian geese. So if you're watching this video and you're with the Fish or Wildlife Game Department, whatever, we had no idea we were breaking the law, okay? We didn't know. But let me just tell you, that was a lot of work. Moms, it's a lot of work being a mom. There's a lot of time and energy and unselfishness you give. But then on top of that, there's this vulnerability. Like, love demands vulnerability. Tammy had to give them away. There was some vulnerability. There's some potential for some sadness or grief or pain. Mothers, your possibilities for pain are incredible. You could give your whole life, all your energy, your time, your sleep. You could give up your personal dreams. You can give finances away, and then you can get to a point where your kids still don't appreciate you, or they emotionally detach from you, and you can feel like you're invisible, like nobody notices. Then there could be feelings of failure. Like when you compare yourself to other moms, or you compare your children to other people's children. You're like, I didn't do enough. I didn't put them in enough things. I didn't do something. You could be feeling like a failure, unappreciated. You could watch your child suffer and not be able to do anything about it. Maybe if they suffer physically and you can't fix it. Or maybe they're suffering emotionally. Maybe they failed at something, maybe academically, maybe financially, maybe occupationally, maybe relationally, and you can't do anything about it. Or an addiction, or depression, or they've walked away from the faith. And not all you can do, but you can give them advice if they want it. You can pray for them, but you can't really fix it. And then there's the worst possibility of loss. And that is losing a child, like to a miscarriage, or to leukemia or cancer, or to an overdose, or even suicide. At the center of it all, what I'm saying is that there's this reality that the deeper the love, the deeper the potential for grief. Love makes vulnerability unavoidable. but love still longs to love. Would you turn to Matthew chapter 23, or at least know that it'll be up on the screen. It'll be Matthew chapter 23, verse 37. Jesus is in Jerusalem. It's probably Tuesday morning. It's the last week of his life. He's never coming into Jerusalem again. He's not leaving Jerusalem alive. He knows that they're going to arrest him. They're going to convict him. They're going to beat and torture him, and then they're going to crucify him. Yet, without harsh judgment, without condemnation, he says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks, and you were not willing." That tells me four things about Jesus. Number one is it tells me that he laments for the lost. He laments for the rebellious. He laments for the broken, for the confused. He laments for the hard-hearted. If I were in Jerusalem and I knew that in a few days I was going to be arrested, convicted, tortured, and crucified, I would not lament for the people. I would not. Unless I had the Holy Spirit of God, like Stephen did when he was being stoned to death, and he looks up and he sees Jesus standing in heaven, and he says, "Forgive them, they don't know what they're doing," just before the rock, or the last rock that put him unconscious or killed him. He said that. That's the Holy Spirit of God. Jesus laments for the lost. And number two, Jesus longs for the distant. He says, "How often I have longed to gather your children together." Often and gather, if you put those together, it's a relational protection. Often, I want to be with you guys all the time, but I want to gather you as a hen gathers her chicks. I want to protect you. God doesn't have a control issue. Mothers that try to teach their children or try to get them to do certain things, it's not, the motivation isn't to control them because they have a control issue. It's to protect them. The warnings of a mother are to protect, like, wait until I say go. Hold my hand as we cross the street. Don't put that in your mouth. You don't know where it's. Tammy was at Taco Bell with the kids when they were much younger. And one of them, and so before she gets the food, they're sitting at a table, and one of them is eating something. And she says, "What are you eating?" "Gum, Mommy." "Where did you get that gum?" "Under the table." "And Mommy, it's really wet." That's like hepatitis B waiting to happen. That's gross. Don't put things in your mouth because you don't know where they've been. Let's say we did, but not do it. Let's not and say we did. Wear your coat or you'll catch a cold. You'll be known by the company you keep. Jesus, in the same way, knowing the failure, the fallen nature of man, our propensity to sin, the rebellion of our heart, our stubbornness, the hardness of heart, our unbelief, he warns through the Holy Spirit to protect us from the powers of evil. But not just from the powers of evil, from the power of our own fallen nature. 3, he gives each of us a choice. I've longed to gather you as a hen gathers her chicks, and you were not willing. Each of us has a choice to gather or not gather It's tragic and it's heartbreaking that the reality is that only a percentage of the population will gather to Jesus. That tears my heart up because I don't want to see anybody live without joy and hope and without love for eternity. How close are you to Jesus? Moms, you're God's child. You're his precious daughter. He longs to gather you. Jesus laments for the lost. He longs to gather, but there's also a choice. We all have that choice. Thank God for mothers who gather. Thank God for women who shelter. But compassion and sacrifice and protection and patience and grief and tenderness and persistence are all reflections of God's character given to us humans. Because yes, we are made in the image of God. You mothers, you have the love of God. Psalm 91 verse 4. Moses most likely wrote this psalm while in the wilderness leading the people of Israel. And Moses, as you know, he often met with God. There would be like this cloud, and God would kind of be in this cloud. The cloud would descend on this tent that they called the tent of meeting, because that's where Moses met with God often. The cloud would come down, Moses would go into the tent, or Moses would go in and the cloud would come down. But Moses often hung out with God inside this tent. And God would speak to Moses audibly. Like they would have a conversation every time, like this conversation. And I don't know if it was an angel that God was speaking through or if it was the voice of God himself. But Moses, who often met with God, said this in Psalm 91 verse 4. He said, He, God, will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and your wall of protection. Good mothers often become a place of refuge. And they should. A child should be able to say, when I was afraid or confused or ashamed or wounded, there was always my mother that I could run to. But even the best mothers can only point to a greater shelter. A mother's arms can hold a child for a season, but Christ's arms will shelter you and your soul forever. You can tell Jesus when you're afraid and confused or ashamed or wounded, all the way from childhood up until you're at your last days of your life. Because he understands. Point number 4 is Jesus understands. He understands the grief of motherhood, the rejection, the self-sacrifice. He understands what it is to love deeply and be rejected. Isaiah chapter 53, one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible, tells us that Jesus was despised and rejected by mankind. His tears over Jerusalem remind us that you're not alone in your sorrow. To the mother carrying pain that came out of motherhood, I say, Jesus shares your pain. To the parent carrying blame for a wayward child, I say, Jesus shares your peace or offers you peace as well. And to the child who has resisted godly submission, I say, come home and be gathered. Isaiah, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, said this. God, speaking through Isaiah, says this. Can a mother forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you.